Grow Your Moving Company podcast. I'm your host, Wade Swikle, owner and CEO of Two College Brothers Moving Storage and Franchising, and co-founder of the Moving Titan Retreat, which is coming right up here in early September, and also co-founder of Titan Up Training. And I've got a guest today that I am extremely excited to have on, somebody that I call a friend from afar that I can't wait to get out to visit out in California. This person is a legend of the moving industry. I've been doing it since 1997. We have Aaron Steed, the CEO of Meathead Movers. And most people know who Meathead Movers is in the moving industry. But in case you don't, Meathead Movers started in 1997 when Aaron was only 17 years old, still basically in high school or just coming out of high school. Has an amazing story. He's overcome some huge things that I'll let him talk more on throughout the years. But they've grown Meathead to be the largest independent moving company in the state of California, which is a massive state. They've got 9 locations, having just opened 3 additional ones. And that includes 2 storage facilities based in the San Luis Obispo, California area. And they run over 80 trucks and do upwards of $20 million a year annually. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. I know this one's long overdue, and I'm really excited to get into it with you. Tell me a little bit, you were 17. Were you still in high school when you started? How did you start a moving company at such a young age? I mean, I thought I started at 21 and thought that was young, but 17, yeah. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just thought I was going to be a professional baseball player at that point in time, chasing girls. But tell me a little bit about those early days.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what I was doing either. 17, and calling it a company is probably overly generous. It was really just a student labor service. Me and my high school friends and teammates. I wrestled. My brother was a part of it. He played football. And we just went to our friends' parents and said, hey, look, if you need any help moving or doing anything around the house that you don't want to do, let us know, pay us whatever you think we're worth. Word spread, and we did a good job, and it just felt like a win-win. And there was a lot of natural organic momentum from the early days, and we just kept trying to double down on that.
Yeah. Were you like actually incorporated, or had you filed like a legitimate business LLC with a license
No,
and all that at such a young age, or did that
no,
come
no,
later on once you just
no,
started
no.
implementing right away?
Yeah. I mean, just to kind of put in perspective, I had a pager, which also dates me. And so the clients would page me. I'd call them back at like a payphone or wherever I was at. And the deal was, hey, you rent the truck, pick us up at our parents' house, take us to where you're moving with the truck. We'll do all the moving, and then when you're done, pay us whatever you think we're worth, and then drop us off at our homes. And then my friends started getting vehicles, and then we'd be able to like drive out there. I actually didn't even have my first truck until a couple months before I graduated high school when I was 18. So the first, year and a half, 2 years, I didn't even have a truck. But that was the deal. It was uh, very grassroots, to say the least.
Yeah, I started myself with a pickup truck, and we were renting
Yep.
Penske's, and then I got a
Yep.
trailer, and then I finally got a box truck, and very similar. And I respect the heck out of people who just bootstrap this business, because that's one of the things that you can do in moving. I call it a low barrier to entry, but a high barrier to success.
Yes.
Because you don't even need a truck. You could just start off doing labor jobs. You can go rent a truck when you need to. You can use a pickup truck for small things. But then, getting to that next level, I mean, there's so many levels to the game. How were you getting that business in the beginning? Because obviously there was a lot of different things. The internet wasn't nearly what it is today.
Yeah.
What were you doing to spread the word?
Yeah. So I would go to Staples, and for $9.99 you could get 1,000 clip art business cards. And at the hometown football games, I'd hand them out, in the bleachers before the dual meets, for wrestling. Go in the bleachers and hand out my business cards. And then I would ask, and then whenever I was done with the job, I would say, hey, would you mind telling anyone you know that's moving about who we are and what we're all about? Also, in the business service directory section in the newspaper, I don't even know if they even still have this anymore, But for like $100, you could just get like a little line ad, that had your name and your phone number. And if people were looking for cheap movers, then or cheap whatever, or folks that didn't have big advertising budgets, that's often it was kind of like the pre-Craigslist, and by de-risking the offer to the client by offering to for them to pay me whatever they thought we were worth, it was really easy for them to say yes to using our services.
I love that concept, and it reminds me of a time. I think I was probably a junior or senior in high school, and I was involved in some student organization that we were trying to raise money. I don't even remember what the organization was, but we had a car wash, and we did a very similar thing where we didn't charge $10 for a car wash or $20 for the car wash. Like it was just pay us whatever. These are donations.
Yeah.
Give us a donation, and I
Yeah.
think I mean I could swear we made more money with that
Yes.
model than we would have if we charged $5 or $10 a car wash, because we had people, a bunch of high school kids like, out there in the sun washing cars. They wanted to support whatever the organization that we were doing was that I don't even
Yeah.
remember was. But I mean, people were handing us 20s and 50s, and we're like, for a car wash, and this was early to mid 2000s when that was a lot of money back then, and
Yes.
we were just ecstatic. I think we raised several $100s. When if we would have set pricing at $5 or $10, now you start getting people that are like, oh, it's too expensive, or
Mhm.
I would have given you more, but no, that's a good deal, and we might have given away some free car washes
Yeah.
from people, but the people that were giving us 20, 30, 40, $50, maybe even somebody dropped 100 in there because they loved it. I mean, it was interesting. Did you ever get stiffed when you were doing that model?
I did. The story is me and my brother loaded up a U-Haul, drove it to Chico, unloaded, then took the train back. And the lady paid for our train tickets and gave us $25 each,
Oh my God.
even though it was a 3-day move. One day to load the truck because it was packed to the brim. I mean, we probably loaded 14,000 pounds in this truck all day driving from San Luis Obispo to Chico, and then all day taking the train back. And then, and what she said at the end was like, you really should have a set charging system. And I looked at her and I was just so stunned. And I was thinking, like, yeah, you know what, you're right. And by that time, we had enough demand and we started figuring it out. But to compliment what you just said, I think there's a lot of power in as a company like extending trust first. I think if there's, like there are some wineries, if you're on the wine club, you can stay on the property, so long as you buy a certain amount of wine. It's just like whenever you're extended trust and people feel that, most people are inherently good. And I think if you're willing to bet on people's good nature and their good heart and doing the right thing, like most people pay their bills. There's always going to be the exception of the rule, but most people believe in karma, and I think act appropriately. To this day, we try to have like certain surprises throughout the moving process that surprise them, and because we want the client to feel like they want to tip us at the end of the day. But it's a people business. It's a personal business. There's a lot of like emotional intelligence in moving that I think people don't understand. How do you get people to want to use you? How do you get your employees to want to put in that extra effort? And yeah, it's a worthwhile venture. I love what you said. Low barrier of entry to enter, high barrier to become successful. It's so true.
I remember early on, I was advertising on Craigslist. It was right when the
Uh-huh.
internet was taking hold, probably
Hmm.
'09. I want to say summer of '09. Just needed a summer job, and I was saying $12 an hour. I think I started at 10. And I was like, I bet I can get 12 out of this. And
Yeah.
I was like, $12 an hour for my services, and most of the time, even when I was at 10 or 12, people would feed me. They'd pay
Yeah.
me extra. They'd give me tips.
Yeah.
I get to meet a lot of cool people, see a lot of job sites. But there was this one guy, and he was with, I think he had a career previously with like Atlas or one of the van lines. And he kind of knew how the industry worked, with drivers hiring help when they come to town and whatnot. And he had a beautiful waterfront condo, and we are moving him to another waterfront condo in one of the nicer parts of Sarasota, and moving him over to the Bradenton area. And he had money, but he was looking to save it as much as he could.
Yeah.
He rented a Penske truck, and he hired me, and he hired like two or three other people that didn't speak any English, that I had to work with to load up his very expensive furniture. And I had been advertising $12 an hour, and it was a two or 3 day move. Went out there multiple times, drove 30, 45 minutes each way, and really busted it. And he wrote a check at the end of the move for like exactly $12 down to the cent. It was like $188.50, like no tip,
Yeah.
no like extra. I was like, okay, well, I guess technically I had my rate set, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I was just like, dang. But when you first started to set your own rates, what when was that pivot point where you decided, okay, maybe it's time to set the rates, and then how did you set them in the beginning? Was it still trying to just drive a bargain, or were you
No.
what were your thoughts around that?
No, we've always been, 20, 30% more than our competitors. And we don't apologize for it either. And, I really believe like price is what you pay, value is what you get. And there's a cost of going with the cheapest possible people. You're really paying Russian roulette. There's a risk. Companies, like ours that invest in good people and trainings and incentive programs and guarantees and back up their service and all those sort of things, it's expensive to operate a moving company correctly. And you got to charge. If you don't charge enough, then the client's also going to think, well, how can you guarantee your service if you don't charge enough too? So it's like it has to just kind of make sense. The way I've always looked at it, I've never really cared what my competitors charge. I don't. I'm curious as to how they price things and how they pitch things, but as far as the rates, it doesn't matter to me very much. I always look at what kind of business do I want to run? What kind of people do I want to employ? What sort of service do I want to provide? What's the cost of doing all that? And then what do I need to charge in order to have that business? And then the onus is on me as the business owner to create enough value to justify that expense.
Yeah, and you mentioned guarantees, and that's one that kind of plays on the idea that most people are good people, and I actually got the idea from Larry O'Toole at Gentle Giant to have a
Yeah, I
mover money
love
back
Larry.
guarantee. Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
so we started doing that. I think a lot of nobody else in our markets, to my knowledge, do anything like
Mhm.
that. But when I heard I'm sorry, Larry, when I heard Larry talk about how that he can count on one hand how many times it's been redeemed, it's like
Yeah,
let's try this out because I feel pretty
that's
good
right.
about our cruise right now, and
Yes.
I too now been doing it for several years since probably the first time I interviewed him on the podcast, and I too can count on probably one hand, maybe two
Yeah.
right now, but like six or seven people that have ever redeemed that or that we've even proactively offered that after hearing their feedback on.
Yes.
And it comes because somebody could easily take advantage of you by saying, oh, I hated them both. Well, were there claims? What was wrong? No, I just didn't like
Yeah.
them. All right, well,
Yep.
here's your money back. You don't have to pay for your move. And
That's right.
every now and then you get that customer who wants a free move for something silly. But I'm curious what your guarantees are.
Yeah, I mean, so we have a couple. Number one, we offer valuation. We sell up to $100,000 of valuation to each of our clients. And it's amazing how many moving companies don't even offer valuation. They just offer 60 cents per pound. And we're able to really exploit that, with the clients like, well, why do you think they're not willing to sell valuation? Because they don't want to be responsible for paying for the damage that they're going to do to your furniture, and the client's like, yeah, you're probably right. And then two, we offer a guarantee on the home that we're moving in and out of, where if we do any damage to the floors or the walls or back into a rain gutter or anything of that nature, we take care of that 100% up to the value of the contract. And then we also have, and we actually got this from Larry O'Toole as well, a Gentle Giant. If you ever have the opportunity to tour his facility in Boston, I would highly recommend it. Larry's an absolute legend. I have so much respect for him. He just lives and breathes this stuff. His culture is absolutely outstanding. They are doing it right at Gentle Giant.
Well, you
And
just wrote a book. I don't know if
I
you
did. I got it.
on my shelf
Yeah.
back there. I just ordered copies for all
Yeah.
of my key team members
Yeah.
because I've just been underlining like every page in it. Uh,
Moving with the big heart here, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
phenomenal. He'll be
He
there
is.
in September as well, and I love connecting with him. He's just got so much wisdom. But I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. So then the last one we call it the fair refund assurance, which is what you were talking about that I think we both stole from Larry, which is we guarantee your satisfaction on any of our movers or packers. Tell us what percentage value you felt that you received. So if you have a three-man job, two of the guys are working up to the meathead standard, but one of the guys is on his phone a lot, inefficient, not jogging, whatever the situation is, you tell us what value you felt you received, and we'll, one, offer to replace that person, and or, give you a refund based upon the percentage you felt of value you felt you received from that employee that day. And it puts your money where your mouth is, and in our case kind of puts us back to our roots to a certain degree of like, hey, pay us whatever you think we're worth.
Yeah, I like that. And now, when you say you offer the home protection guarantee, that, well, first, I guess, is the valuation that you offer, that's included in your price, that original price, or is that something that?
It's in addition, yeah. So it's we offer valuation starting at $10,000, and then they can go up into increments of 5,000 all the way up to 100,000.
Gotcha. And then
Yep,
for
but
the
that is
home,
an additional charge.
got it. Hey, movers, it's Wade Swikle, and you're listening to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you've ever wasted money on marketing to the wrong homes, listen up. This is why I use USA Home Listings. They're the only platform in the moving industry built by movers that not only has new home listings and under contract listings updated daily, but now offers enhanced data that can eliminate vacant homes and give you phone numbers and emails for both homeowners and realtors, giving you multiple ways to connect and close more jobs. Their vacancy AI tool removes empty homes so there are no more wasted mailing efforts, and their Tier 2 data takes it further, providing highly accurate contact details for both homeowners and realtors for email, phone, and social outreach. The result? Higher conversions, stronger ROI, and more book jobs with less spend. Check out usahomelistings.com because it's where real movers get real leads. And for the home protection, valuation, well, I guess the 60 cent a pound thing, it's hard to pin a dollar amount per pound when it's walls, floors, and I know floors are notoriously expensive claims.
They are.
We really drive our guys hard to
Yes.
put floor protection down, but every now and then it's unavoidable. You got to scoot a fridge
Mhm.
out. You got to do something that
I
is
know.
off the
It's
runners or off the floor protection. And one scratched floorboard, or even something that was pre-existing, we've seen where you lift up a rug and it was there from the last movers or
I
whatever,
know.
that gets pinned on us. The guys forgot to take a picture of it. I'm curious, like, a floor can oftentimes need to be completely redone and
Yeah.
can be upwards of $20,000 depending on how big it is. Like, how do you handle those types of claims?
Yeah, I mean, so number one, we have to believe that we actually did it, and so we won't just like approve any claim. We have to acknowledge that we actually did it. And we also have a culture where I think our employees feel safe, like saying, yeah, I did that, or yeah, this is what we did in this situation. I can see how that could have happened. We'll have our operations managers also go out there, like look at how fresh the scratch was, or isn't. And that's also why we limit the property damage to the value of the contract as well. So if it's a $1,500 move, we're not going to have to pay out 20K on a floor. But it does happen, and it sucks. But it's just kind of part of the business.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good policy, and sometimes those customers will really try to make your life hard if you don't offer to do the whole floor or try to go in and
Yeah.
repair it. But are you mostly paying? I guess if it's up to that was going to be my next question. If it exceeds the value of the contract, is this mostly coming out of pocket, or if it was something that was going to, if you ever go to insurance in a when it's a big situation?
We do. One of the advantages of being in a captive insurance policy is you have a little bit more authority as to how those claims get handled versus if it's like an off the shelf soft insurance where it's kind of like where you're not like buying into it, where they just handle the claim for you. But I in order, but we try to handle everything internally as much as we possibly can. And we really try to do what is fair. And we'll bend a little bit to like try to accommodate the client, but we also don't want to be ripped off also. And if we get the sense that the client is being unethical or lying or just being overly aggressive or unreasonable, I think is really the right word. We'll push back too. We try to find what's right, and then we'll bend and then bend towards the client in order to try to maintain great customer service. But it's definitely a healthy balance. And with the amount of employees that we have, you need to have a system of like continuous improvement and feedback loop, updating your policies and procedures, and for there to be clarity around discounts and claims and what happened and what are we doing about it continuously. You got to be all in.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And it's something that everybody in the moving industry deals with at one time or another.
Yeah,
And you
for
mentioned
sure.
captive. Now, I'm familiar with a captive. I'm entertaining it. Our insurance renews in October, but for the people that are listening that aren't familiar with what a captive is, can you explain what your experience has been with being in a captive and what kind of the minimum requirements, at what level of size that you were when you first got into a captive?
Sure. I think we got into a captive when we had like three or four branches, and there are pros and cons to it. Each captive is very, very different. So it would be inaccurate for me to give a blanket statement as to how all captives are. If you are going to be in a captive, I would definitely encourage shopping a few different captives. And and a lot of times what's sold to you, it doesn't actually happen as well. So one of the benefits is I thought the increases would be mitigated because you're in essence like a co-owner of a shared insurance policy, and you buy into it either with letters of credit or cash, and then you and then other people in the moving industry can have an insurance policy that is administered by an insurance company, and then there's a certain amount of like risk share, and then there's distributions if the entire group performs well, or there could be capital calls as well. So it's like you're kind of in bed with other moving companies, but the idea is these other moving companies are performing at a similar level as you are, and they're a similar size, and they have, safety managers and procedures and whatnot. Um, as opposed to being lumped in with some of these more, smaller moving companies and more fly by night moving companies. Not all, but it's but the idea is you're going to save money and bail, bet on yourself a little bit more with a captive. However, it doesn't always work that way. And I've seen good captives and not such good captives, and the captives can also change too, and who administers it is really, really important. I would encourage anyone who's considering getting a captive, getting some professional guidance to in shopping, because it's complicated, and we've gone through some steep learning curves, navigating captive insurance policies. But net, I think it's probably a good thing to consider it if you can get into one.
Yeah, and what are some of what have you found out like the minimum requirements? I shopped it a few years ago, and I want to say they wanted to see like $220,000 in premiums that you were paying, and usually I believe there was like a decent upfront payment, and that you after like 3 years you could start to recoup back some of your costs if you had your claims down. I'm trying to remember. I'm going to be going
Yeah,
investigating that more as the months, as we get closer to our renewal. But
yeah, that sounds about right.
yeah, yeah. So it's typically reserved for a little bit larger companies. Probably what 5 million and up is probably standard.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. Yeah. And there's also captives where you can join other businesses that are not in the moving industry as well. And there's some pros and cons to that.
Well, insurance rates never seem to go lower, so a captive is a good
Absolutely.
option once you get to the size where it's justified. And I think we're just a little too small when the last time we shopped it. So anyway, I think switching gears a little bit, we don't have to talk about insurance and claims too much
Yeah.
more. Let's get into the sexier stuff here. Let's talk about like the growth that you experienced. Take me on like the journey from those early days as a high schooler without any trucks to getting to a point where you were ready to open your next location, and what attributed to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we were just really excited to grow because we were able to become the dominant moving company within a few years of us getting our license to become a professional moving company in San Luis Obispo. And then, I figured, hey, so long as we can hire athletes and train them to become professional movers, and we know and understand how the athletic mind works, and and have a company and a culture where they take pride in being a part of it and delivering great service to our clients, let's take this to other communities. So we opened up our first office just about 40 minutes away from our first office, um, just to like make sure we didn't mess it up. And this was before the internet, and it was very analog, you know. And then once we felt like we had our systems down, um, I'm sorry, we did have the internet, but it was very slow. Then we jumped to the next major population, which was Ventura County and northern Los Angeles County. Lots of trials and tribulations. Phone book was still king back then. I had a standoff with the AT&T Yellow Pages because we did a bunch of. It's kind of a long story, but I thought we were going to get full page ads in Ventura County and northern Los Angeles County, and I negotiate a really good rate because if you go up in basis, then you get a significant discount. And at the end of and I signed this deal, and we went down there. And then about a month before the books went to print, a AT&T salesperson came to me, the manager, and said, "Hey, look, we're not going to honor that contract." I'm like, "Oh, yes, you are," because I have a signed agreement from you. He's like, "No, we're not going to do it." And I was just like, "Okay, then if you don't, we're going to sue you." And he laughed and walked out of the office. And then I didn't call him. He didn't call me. The books come out. Mind you, we rented a 6,000 square foot office. This is our first major expansion. The books come out. Meathead Movers is nowhere to be seen. So then I moved 6 people down there. We did the most guerrilla marketing efforts. We knocked on every single door. I know you're a big fan of door knocking as well. In Ventura County, like thousands of homes, we knocked on every single door, hung the door hangers, went to every single event, every single ribbon cutting. It was almost ridiculous. Just working as hard as we possibly could, and everyone who was there with me did. And then we invested the money that we would have spent on Yellow Pages into the website and SEO, and that really launched us because we opened up our first office in 2007, 10 years after our first real office in 2000, 10 years after we expanded or started our company. And we just got lucky with how the internet took off, and we got lucky by not advertising in the Yellow Pages. And then we ended up suing AT&T Yellow Pages successfully,
Wow.
and got an infusion that really helped propel us. And it was so scary at the time. I really thought we were like dunzo, but it worked out because we just kept trying to make it work. And then each office, we started opening up a little bit sooner. Than we opened up Orange County and Fresno, and every time. And at first, like, I thought I had to move down there. Like when we opened up Ventura County, I moved down there for a year, and then we opened up Orange County, and I moved down there for 3 months. And then every office after that, I didn't have to move down there because I just got more comfortable. The systems were in place, um, and then our growth really stagnated with our run-in with the EEOC, and we didn't it really stalled our growth. But then we have since settled the EEOC lawsuit. And for those of you who don't know, we got sued by the EEOC for age discrimination, even though no one raised their hand and said they were discriminated against. The EEOC initiated this lawsuit on their own accord and did an investigation and determined that we were an ageist organization with pattern and practice. And we had four failed mediations, and it took many years going back and forth. And then they filed a lawsuit, and then we eventually settled that lawsuit. And next month is going on a year after settling that lawsuit. And within the past 11 months, we opened up 3 offices. Just like there's just so much pent up energy of like feeling so good to have that chapter behind us. And now we're able to focus on growing again and providing opportunities for our employees, and servicing the demand that we have for our company in California.
Yeah, that lawsuit. I mean, most people in the industry, have heard about that, and it's just such a crazy situation that it's unbelievable that you overcame it. Isn't it so crazy how sometimes between the AT&T situation and the EEOC situation, it seems like this is like the world is ending. This is like such a blow. This is so bad, but it ends up being one of the best things that could have happened because of the opportunities that
Absolutely.
it ends up creating. I mean,
Yes.
even us recently moving into this office, we found out that our last office was gonna not renew our lease, or they were going to renew it, but they weren't going to let us park trucks there. And we're like,
Wow.
we're a moving company, like
Yeah, that don't work.
trucks, like we're not going to spend this money just for. I mean, the storage piece is there, but and I thought that I had until July of this year. When I found out that it was up for renewal in September, and then I looked at my lease and it was the end of January, and I was like, shoot, we got 4 months to figure this out. I gotta do, and then it ended up being
Yeah.
the biggest blessing because we got to
Yes.
find a place that was closer to where I actually live. So it's like
Yes.
my real community instead of, I live in St. Pete. I was going to Tampa. Now we're in the county that St. Pete's in, and on that side of the bridge, it's a 4 times more storage. We have a better labor
Awesome.
pool. We have unlimited parking for the most part. I mean, just
Yeah.
it just aligned perfectly. And
Yeah.
at the time, I was panicking because I thought it was going to be the
Yes.
worst news ever. Like, how are we going to afford to move
Yes.
everything over, pay a big deposit, get into the
Yes.
space, like lose half our team because they don't want to commit to the community,
Yeah.
all these different things. And it ended up to be a huge blessing. And we got to design
Yes.
our basically our dream office, at least for the level that we're at now. But I mean,
Yes.
you had these opportunities with the AT&T. I mean, who would have thought that the yellow pages were going to just evaporate overnight and that SEO and a website was going to take off? And who would
Right.
have thought that, the EOC under different administrations would be just making up problems that don't really exist that ended up, allowing you to later open up 3 new locations and rally around this, this pent up energy, as you put it. I mean, it's just crazy how when you think that you're done, when you think that this is the worst news ever, how it can just, close one door, open up 10 more, and become
Yeah.
one of the biggest opportunities. Hey everybody, Wade here, and I've got an awesome game-changing announcement for you. Now, I know a lot of you guys are constantly asking, how do we get more leads? How do we get better leads? You're tired of spending way too much money for pay-per-click or buying leads or LSA, whatever it may be, only to get low-paying customers that become a headache with small moves, and you don't get an ROI on those jobs. Well, the exciting news is that our friends at Moversville have just launched a new product called the Realtor Referral Engine, where they not only get in front of realtors, but they command direct response, replies, and referred business. I'm super pumped about this, but don't just take my word for it. My friend Austin Yarborough over at Central Coast Moving and Lucky Day Moving and the Moving Army, I know he's got a bunch of them, just like me. That's why we're friends. Has gotten over 40 direct replies from realtors in his first month of using the Realtor Referral Engine from Moversville. And then there's Scott with ABC Moving Systems. He's booked over $30,000 in work and made over 20 new realtor connections. What can an extra $30,000 a month do for your business? Here's what makes this kind of marketing different. These aren't just one and done jobs. These are realtors who keep referring large jobs, can introduce you to the other members of their brokerage, and then those moves can start referring more and more jobs. You have to stay front of mind though. So if you want to learn more about the Realtor Referral Engine by Moversville, head on over to moversville.com and book a quick 15-minute call with my friend Tim, who runs the place. He'll know exactly what your business needs to get set up. He can do it all to make sure that you're getting high ticket jobs at a fraction of the cost of other marketing sources. I think you're going to be happy that you did that. Don't sleep on this one. Go check out moversville.com. Look for the 15-minute intro call with Tim and report back with your results so that I can talk about them here on the show. Thanks for tuning in.
It's so true, Wade. I mean, it's been said by so many smart, successful people that one's ability to endure suffering is directly related to the success that they can have, in their life. And walking forward in the unknown when things look crazy and uncertain is really, really difficult in the moment, but it's what is needed. That's why it's like we all need to find something, a career that we love and are proud of, like, and the passion behind it, and like a sense of purpose. Because if you do anything for a certain amount of time, you're going to be tested. And when you're tested, are you going to quit or are you going to endure? um there have been four different occasions where Meathead Movers was like this close to going out of business, like justifiably. My advisor is being like, hey, you really want to do this? Like, is the squeeze worth the juice? And I am so grateful that moved into that, we stuck with it. I think this is also where faith kind of comes in. If there's any faith in your life, I think that is, wove into it as well, which is extraordinarily helpful. And Having read your book, Hometown Titans, I love those stories that you have. I swear you and I are kindred spirits. There's so many similarities, and I love all the stories and the ups and downs and how like vulnerable you were in that book. And I can really, really relate. I think one thing that this industry has that you've been able to like really show and highlight with the work that you're doing with this podcast and your retreat is just how much passion there is behind it and how many people who are like truly all in and like fired up every day for this industry. And it's a tough industry to make it, and you have to be all in to do it. And there are ups and there are downs, but you just got to be game. You got to be game for it all. And one of the benefits of getting older is like you realize in time that it's all for you. The biggest problems are the biggest opportunities if you're willing to see it through.
Yeah, it teaches you you have to go through hard times to
Yeah.
grow as a leader, as a person, as
Yes.
a business, because
Yeah.
it teaches you a lot about who you are and what you're made out of. And
Yes.
if you can just operate with the mindset of not can I get through this, but how can I get through this?
Yes.
And you rally around that adversity, and you want to be the underdog that comes back, the David and Goliath. You can draw on those experiences later down the road. I mean, one of the first big ones for us I write about in the book was around 2017. We took on a project that we were way in over our head, and that almost put us out of business. And that was one of the hardest years of my life, because I had so many people counting on me. I had this like identity that I was trying to preserve, and we were able to get through it. And everything since then, I was 26, 27 when that happened. Everything since then has just been like, oh, this used to be like just the ruin my week kind of thing, a bad review, or
Right.
an employee that gets hurt, whatever it is. Now it's just like I can handle this.
Totally.
Like I can get through this. I mean, I've been through way worse than this. Like
Yes.
just stay the course, and you just gotta have that self belief. But was there anything when you were going through some of those tough times that you were able to draw on, or anything that you were able to, stay like mentally healthy? Because they say entrepreneurs have some of the highest rates of depression, and unfortunately, suicide rates a lot of times. And I think a lot of that is because it's lonely at the top, and you're responsible for everything. And it can be tough. It can be taxing. And even just the seasonality of the moving business, the nature of the beast can be challenging for
Yeah.
a lot of people. What do you do to preserve that mental health, or what have you done when you faced some of these things?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A couple things. What's coming to mind is surround yourself with great people. I really, really try to surround myself around people who are better than me. I have people on my executive team that are far better at what they do than I would be in their role. And they really, really carried the company, and their strength and resilience and them stepping up and for a business and their career and their teammates when we got hit with a federal lawsuit was inspiring to me. I moved out of the corporate office and dealt with the lawsuit for a couple years across town, just because I didn't want to. I knew that if the cloud I was dealing with what affected the operation, that it could hurt us in both ways. The company had to continue to operate and do well and innovate with all the changes. So I give so much credit to my employees and to my management team, especially for really carrying the ball in a lot of ways. And I have a lot of advisors and mentors who I'm blessed. I really am. Like when it comes to the people in my life, I'm a freaking billionaire. I swear. I have somehow intrinsically attracted, and I have people in my circle that I can lean on, that I trust, that give really good advice and support. And that's key. Two, jujitsu. I train really hard at jujitsu. I compete in jujitsu. I coach jujitsu. And had I not had that workout, that outlet, the pushing yourself as hard as you possibly can, that vigorous training, it would have it would have it would have had a much more negative impact. I think that really, really, really helped, kind of keep me sane as well. I have a really supportive, amazing, beautiful wife. I have a 4.5-year-old son who is just like full of so much goodness and is so precious. And I love being a dad. And that's been really great. And I would also say my morning routine. I'm pretty disciplined with my morning routine. I like to get up at 5:10 every morning, and I have a sauna, I have a cold plunge, I have a meditation. You know, I like to reflect, I journal, read scripture, I said meditation. So I have a pretty regimented routine I um uh that I think really centers me and focuses me in training and like in going through the lawsuit. I felt like I was like training for a tournament, like I had to show up, I had to be clear, I couldn't be distracted. Like I and that yeah, I think those are the three main things.
Yeah, and I've never done jujitsu, but everything I hear about it, I mean, it really builds that mental discipline. I know a lot of people that do it, and big fan of the Joe Rogan podcast. And I joke
Yeah,
with Mark that he's the Joe Rogan of moving, but he talks about it a lot, and it sounds like it's a really really good outlet to just build that mental toughness and that discipline and that physical toughness because. I've always been a believer that a healthy body equals a healthy mind, and having that outlet, and whether it's CrossFit, whether it's pickleball, whether it's whatever sport or whatever, running,
totally.
biking, triathlons, whatever it is, like that,
Yeah,
like there's no better medicine than some exercise
for
and
sure.
sweating. And that first like
Yes.
12 minutes going into a run is always the worst. And then you start
Yeah.
to get the endorphins and then you catch this wind and it's just like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And some of the biggest discipline draws have come through sports and athletics and conditioning
Hmm.
and things along those lines. And I know that you're huge personally, but you mentioned you also attract this circle of people that are amazing people, and obviously athletes. You have a lot of athletes that work for you, and even though that was a contributing word that got into some of that mess with the EEOC. I know it's still a big piece of your life and your business, and I'm
Yeah.
curious, like how that has shifted. If you've made any adjustments with, you know, attracting athletes, recruiting athletes, hiring athletes, what the culture looks like from an athletic standpoint, or what you're doing to attract those types of people into your life and into your business.
Yeah. I mean, one of the um one of the things is we didn't really have to change operationally, which is one of the reasons why we agreed to settle. We do have someone who is confirming, our business practices and all of our policies and procedures, are right. But it's never been about how old you are. It's all about, can you do the job or not? Can you move heavy things day in and day out, jog when not carrying anything, and maintain a happy, upbeat, enthusiastic attitude? So, we're demonstrating that we're expanding who we are recruiting as far as like what media outlets, there are. We're trying to just basically do everything we possibly can to, reiterate the fact that it's all about, can you do the job or not? It's all about, meritocracy. One thing that's great about jujitsu, getting back to the personal, side, is so as I'm 46, and it's kind of hard to, I think, like find new friends at 46,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I have like my college friends, I have some high school friends, but there was a time where when, because I wrestled in college and then I stopped. I know you were a baseball player that played at a pretty high level, and I don't know about you, but like I stopped working out and then kind of gained 50 pounds and was just working all the time. I was like, oh, I guess this is just what, people do. They build a business, and it was like terrible for me. But then getting back into jujitsu, it's like that's your workout, but also those guys become like your best friends. You really get to know where people are at. Like when you're doing jujitsu with someone, are they trying to hurt you? Are they trying to help you? Are they trying to get better with you? Are they cool? Are they not cool? Do they have a big ego? Do they not? And after doing jujitsu, like with people, with a group of people that have the similar schedule for like a certain amount of time, it becomes like a friend group too, that is healthy and based upon who you are as a person versus the identity you and I both have in our community. Like instead of, well, that's the owner of, two college brothers who's franchising and in the news all the time. Like you're this, you're hometown Titan, business guy, right? Like in the St. Pete area. And instead of being known for like what you've done, you're known as like who you are in your core when doing jujitsu, because on the mats you're basically judged for how good of a training partner you are, how good of a competitor you are, and how you conduct yourself, under stress and pressure. And it's like you get to like know people on like a really raw level. So it's an awesome brotherhood that really is not connected to business, that I didn't realize I needed so much, because in having that wrestling in college, I loved that. And then and then after wrestling in college, my whole life just been was about just trying to build a business and going out and eating and drinking and working as much as I can, pushing myself as hard as I can, and getting fat in the process. Like I have that gene where if I don't work out, I get fat. So it was just it. So the whole jujitsu component for me was really, really key. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to take a second and tell you all about Tighten Up Training. As a co-founder, we've spent months and months and months and a lot of money pooling together resources from some of the best moving companies in the world. And we're excited to bring this to an online platform available to any mover to use at an affordable price. Tighten Up Training has over 200 videos, including mover training, your highest turnover position, so that you can reduce claims, streamline operations, give your team the tools to perform at the highest level of service that generate repeat and referral business and allow you to charge higher prices, as well as sales training, marketing training, business development, leadership. We're adding more content as we speak. We've got legal training in there. We've even got door-to-door training for the moving industry, thanks to Lenny Gray at the Moving Titan Retreat. We've seen a massive explosion of moving companies jumping on to Tighten Up Training since the last retreat, and people are loving it. And when you sign up and mention this podcast, we're going to give you a free 6-week onboarding course in order to learn how to hold your team accountable and get the entire team on the platform so that you can have the best off-season and summer season that you've ever had. So go to tightenuptraining.com, schedule your free demo today, and look forward to tightening up. Yeah. And so are you finding opportunities that help your business through that community with jiu-jitsu, whether they're, recruiting efforts or, marketing opportunities for new clientele, or are you going other places to find
Yeah.
recruits? Like, how are you finding a great people to join you? Because your culture sounds very similar to Larry's with Gentle Giant. I mean, he puts new hires through the stadium run when they
Yes,
come
I've
on.
done that. I've
Have
done
you?
that stadium run. It's hard at
I
Harvard.
love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I ran it. I was in Boston a few years ago, and I actually ran it too. I don't know if I did it right, but I ran the stadium and went up and down every staircase,
Yeah.
and I just on my own just to see what that was all about.
Yeah.
And I love that. And he talks about it in
Yeah.
his book. And I've been trying to think of different ways we could do something similar
Yeah.
here, where it's like, the biggest thing has been, doing it to where we don't get into some kind of discriminatory thing. So trying to find something to where it is relatable to the work that they'll be doing. Because I asked Larry about that. I recently interviewed him on here, and he said, "Wait, it's honestly a bigger risk to take on people who won't do the stadium run and have them go out to customers' homes for you than it is to have them show up at that stadium and do it, even if they're not necessarily going to be running stadiums. They're still running up and down stairs and all that stuff." And that it hadn't been an issue for him. But then I hear about these horror stories about like what you had to go through. And I think that's been a big limiting factor for us to create some kind of like physical criteria for new hires. But I'm just curious,
Yeah.
like where are you finding the people that are willing to uphold the culture that you have, but are you doing any kind of like something like what Larry does that kind of weeds out the people that aren't fit for the job?
Yeah, I was actually in just so we have 9 locations, but in just San Luis Obispo, which is where I'm from, but there was a time when we were, hiking mountains with our new recruits. We the Madonna Mountain, which is the main mountain here, and we're doing that. But right now, no, we're not doing anything like that. And we're actually advised not to have a physical requirement for getting in. However, we do. You have to be able to lift 150 pounds, and you need to be able to prove that on the first, 10 jobs. So that's what we do. I I I think there's room for us to improve of doing some sort of like team building physical exercise, so long as it's, inclusive to everyone and somewhat reasonable on a per branch level. I think that makes a lot of sense, and probably an area that we can improve on. And I think what's important, especially since so much for recruiting, so much of it is online, just being like crystal clear that, what's your EEO policy, and just making sure hiring managers are not making hiring decisions based upon like any sort of protected class, and just making it all about the job. And so long as you can do the job, then you're hiring, and making sure your notes are clear and your trainings are clear. So um um it's a better way to run a business. And also, like, if you're ever investigated, you can show that you're making every effort possible to not discriminate.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Do you guys have a gym at your facilities?
Yeah, we do.
Love that. I
Yeah,
love
at
that.
each of them.
We're
Yeah,
working.
so
I've been
it's
on Marketplace for the last several months, acquiring multiple pieces of equipment and weights and dumbbells, barbells, plates, all
cool.
that stuff. So that's going to be a step. And I'd like to start leading like 6 a.m. workouts with anybody who wants to show up. Make it optional.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
That's great.
yeah. And I believe you touched on it in the beginning, but you mentioned about running back and forth when you don't have items in your
Mhm.
hands. Like, tell me a little bit about that policy that you have, and I imagine
Yeah.
it's a huge selling point to your clientele, especially if they're on an hourly clock.
Yeah. I mean, it's just part of the job requirement. I don't know how it started, but it's just something we started doing like since we started the business. You jog when not carrying anything, and it's moving for us is like a kind of like an athletic event, and it does get the job done faster. The clients appreciate the hustle. It saves the client, time and money, and it also is a way you get those endorphins going, and it's a lot more fun for the movers. We encourage them to play music with the client's permission in the back of the truck, and to try to make it like a fun, kind of collegiate yet also professional moving experience, all wrapped up into one. And there's a lot of other nuances in there, of course, but it's something that has always stuck. And if someone's not down to jog when not carrying anything, they don't fit in here.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So tell me a little bit. So you told me the story about the AT&T debacle and how you just grassroots grinded out, that into an opportunity. That was obviously during a much different digital landscape period of time. What was that? Probably like early 2000s, sometime mid 2000s when you opened that location, I'm imagining. You just opened 3 new locations though, and now
Yeah.
we have AI, we have all the different
Yeah.
social media platforms, we've got Google, we've got PPC, we've got the AI search. People are finding us. We saw a 5x increase in July on AI search from last July.
Wow.
Imagine you're seeing similar results with that. That's becoming kind of the new Google, if you will.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, with these new locations, how are you launching those? What's the modern day marketing play that you're putting into place to get those off the ground? And what have you found recently with your existing more established locations to be the biggest marketing plays?
Yeah. It's really like it needs to be just continuing to do a good job. That's the that's the most important one. As far as like gaining new market share, we do a few things. One, I'm a big believer in door hangers. Whenever we have our crews go out and blanket neighborhoods and then knock on the doors whenever there's a for sale sign, whenever we don't have work for them that day, we also park our trucks and highly trafficked areas. We're on the side of freeways, if we can, if we're not using the truck. So call those mobile billboards, which is really cool. And then we're pretty heavy on Google AdWords as well. And we get a good return on Google AdWords, and we're continuing to invest more in that. We also invest in SEO. We're now we did have all of our social stuff handled in-house. And recent with social, there's really two types of social media. There's like entertaining social media, and then there's educational social media. And we've always been trying to be more entertaining with our content and trying to be funny. I'm now transitioning where I want to be more educational and put up more videos to come to especially with Andromeda, how it rewards high frequency posting. And then if it's educational and
What is
shareable.
Andromeda, if you don't mind? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so it's the algorithm name for Meta as far as what it rewards for organic searchability. Andromeda. And in short, it really rewards people who are posting often. So we're going to be working with a company that's going to help us post a lot more frequently. This is what you're going to start seeing in the next couple of weeks, with much more educational content to try to get more organic search and pair the and Meta can match the user profile and what they're going through. Like if they're searching for homes or mortgage rates or something of that nature, they're hopefully going to pair my organic posts, if they're educational, to those people, far more targeted, which is super exciting. And beyond that, it's really just doing the basics. And I think being consistent, knowing and understanding the top realtors, creating value there. And that's where you're going to get, the more higher ticket referrals, of course, and having designated people who can do that, as well as have like an elevated service offering to those realtors where they feel like they're giving their client something more than if the client were to just call our call center. And then on the call center, we're doing a lot of things. We're really focusing on our speed to lead and trying to get to clients, a lot faster. We were not, whenever we would miss a call because all of our service reps were busy, and we have different levels of salespeople in our call center. We're now calling the client who just left a voicemail or just sent an online web request and being like, hey, just so within 60 seconds, hey, just so we got your web form. Hey, we got your voicemail. I wanted to let you know you're in the queue. We're going to be giving you a call right back. Just hang tight. Thank you. We'll be right with you.
And is that a
As
text
opposed,
message that goes out once they submit their form?
we're
How are you?
we're calling them. No, we're calling them.
So when you
Yeah,
call them, just to tell them that they're in the queue, and not like try to quote them right there on the spot, or
yeah, because we have different levels of salespeople.
I see.
Right. Yeah, we have like kind of customer service support, and then we have quoters, and sometimes all of our quoters are busy, but when a quote comes in, we can't accommodate them. We're calling them, letting them know that they're in the queue, just to like have that touch point and hopefully buy us some more time. So yeah, and so we're just we're trying to make it easier to say yes to hiring us. And there's a lot of other things that we're doing, that you're doing too. But it's a wild time. Technology has never been there's so many options, and it's so hard to make sense of what works and what doesn't work. Something that my executive team and I have discussed, like, hey, it's okay to make mistakes, but if we're going to make mistakes, just like fail fast and go to the next one. We've tried out a lot of different plugins and software programs and marketing agencies and tactics, and a lot of them don't work. So, but we need that feedback. Hey, if it's not working, boom, let's go somewhere else. Because there's just this like giant shift right now with AI and consumer behavior, and like clients wanting things on demand, and we need to rise to the occasion. We're increasing our call center hours. Right now, we've been 8 to 6 for years. We're now going from 8 to 9 o'clock at night now. And, that's an adjustment for our call center. They don't want to work those hours. So now we got to hire more people. But it's pretty easy for us based upon, our to show that it makes economic sense to increase our call center to 9 o'clock, because that's when a lot of clients are searching, for doing research for moving companies.
And it's the best
Just
time to book because most of the competition's closed. People are off
totally.
of work. They've got time to talk, to pick up the phone. I'm a big believer in that. In fact, last year, we actually went to 24/7 as our open hours on Google My Business. And at first, we had round the clock VAs handling the after hours stuff. That got a little expensive. They really weren't booking. And so what we did is we got a voice agent, which was a lot more affordable to do for the after hours stuff. And with the blessing from our SEO team, because Google can penalize people if they say they're open and then nobody's answering if they do a robo test call. Our SEO company said that as long as there's something talking, if it's an AI voice agent, should be fine. And that increased lead volume 20% by going 24/7
Wow.
in just a matter of about a month, and ever since. So
Wow.
with all the voice agent technology, I'm still a big believer in having a real person talk to the customers,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it allows you to at least capture that lead when that increase in volume is coming in, because Google will prioritize the businesses that show as open.
That's incredible.
So just a little tip, but I didn't mean to cut you
Thank
off
you.
if you were still.
No, no, that I wrote that down. Maybe we need to increase it to 24/7. I like
Yeah,
that.
and you don't necessarily have to have it staffed. Like I said, a voice agent or maybe
Yeah.
a VA in the Philippines could just be a message taker. They don't make, from my experience, great salespeople, but
Right.
you can definitely take down information, and at least somebody has a real person to speak to. And
Yes.
oftentimes you can get them for just a few dollars an hour. And if you can get one extra job a day on the books because you got
Oh,
a real person answering the phone, it might be worth it. But the voice agents, I mean, you could go build your own voice agent on Claude these days. There's a lot of different services that provide it. I know Rob Marchese up in New York has started a little side business where he's building them out for people that we're planning to do some stuff with. We had a contract with one of the big providers on it that just went up, so we're looking at another option on it. But the voice agents are getting better. I don't think they're a replacement for a human, but they have a purpose for the after hours and the overflow, so that it doesn't just go to a stagnant voicemail or just stay on hold for 50.
yeah. I feel like it makes the client feel like they're making steps towards getting a quote, which there's progress. They're going to be less likely to continue shopping if they feel like they've given some of their information and they know the next steps.
Yeah. And you mentioned your prices are 20 to 30% higher than the competition. You pride yourself on that. I think premium pricing is the best way to provide a premium service, because that is, it costs money to be able to offer the level of service. But at the same time, we always have salespeople that want to lean on price. They want to discount. They want to use that as the reason they may not be booking jobs, saying that, yep, they mark price too high. How are your salespeople, or however your call center is structured? How are you overcoming that common objection of the when it's so focused on price, especially once you start getting into bigger moves that maybe you have an on-site estimator that 3-4 plus bedrooms. Sometimes that 20% increase, 30% increase can break a $10,000 deal, and then you've got all the over the phone stuff. But what have you found to work really well with overcoming it?
Yeah. Yeah. We just tell our client, look, we agree with you. This is expensive. I know this costs a lot of money in order to get this job done right. And you can go to other places and pay less. But if you want the job to get done right with people you can trust and have guarantees, we're your safest bet. Really, what you're doing by choosing to use us is you're investing in having a quality move. And you're investing in a company that's received over 100 awards for excellent service, and you're investing in a company that, in the unlikely event things don't go well, there are guarantees to back that up. But we've outperformed we have a 400-point military inspired training program. Our movers get paid more when things don't get broken or damaged. Our breakage to move ratio is 8 times lower than the national average, and it costs money to make those things happen. So, although there are cheaper alternatives, you're not comparing apples to apples. It's really apples to oranges. And I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong for you. That's for you to decide. I'm here to explain the differences as to how we created this company, who we are, what we're all about. And it's up to you who you want in your home on move day. I think a lot of times clients, at time of estimate, they're thinking about, um, what's the price? Are you available? And what kind of sense do I have? But on move day, what they're concerned about is who's in my home. What kind of customer service am I getting? Are my things getting broken or damaged? Are there any bait and switch pricing tactics? So we keep trying to bring the client back to move day and keep trying to show how we're structured and how we're built. And ultimately it's up to the client, and we're not for everybody. And we're okay with that.
I love that. And I honestly think we could have a whole podcast on the 400-point military inspired training program, and just the fact that you have a name for that training program as opposed to just our guys are trained. That's something, we'll say they're uniform trained, background checked, drug tested, but I love the name of the training program.
Yeah.
Even if it's just 400-point military inspired, like I don't know if you have a formal name for it, like Meathead University. We have a Two College Brothers University, and now we have our training model home here. But I know we're coming over a little bit on time. I got to know a little bit about this training program, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay. Yeah, it's so there's knowledge and tasks. We got this from the military where there's things you need to know, and then there's things you need to be able to perform. And so we list out what it is. Things you need to know maybe is our mission statement. Tasks maybe how to secure an appliance dolly, and then there's a how to. How do you go about doing that, either in words or videos? And then a supervisor needs to sign off, vouching for the competency that the trainee is able to successfully complete the knowledge or task card. And over the years, as we've learned more and have made mistakes and this, that, and the other, we've kept adding to the training program, but it's pretty robust. And that 400 points is for, we have 3 different mover positions. It's for, all of the different positions. So we're not putting them through. It's more like a couple dozen trainings before they are able to do their first move, but once they become a full-fledged team captain driver is when, it gets up to the 400-point military inspired training program.
I love that, and we too have a 3-level thing, and to keep it on brand, it's freshman, it's let's see, what is it? Freshman, upperclassman, and master graduate is
Love that.
what our levels are.
That's cool.
That is cool. And how long does the training period last for people that are coming in from start to finish until they're ready to
Yeah.
move?
So there's an initial training program. There's training before they go out on their first job, and then there's a 10-job training criteria. And then the rest of the training is self-administered based upon what levels they want to receive. So this way, no one can say, "Oh, you guys didn't want me to get promoted." It's like, no, you work through your training program, and it's up to you when you get promoted. But it's up to management to certify that you can actually do all these things that are within our training program.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so here people need to earn it. They need to earn it. They need to work towards it, and we're trying to pull them, not push them through it.
Love that. So they come in, they get the knowledge piece, and then they get the task piece. And is that like a day long orientation, or is it multiple days, or is it they do it online?
Yeah, it's a day long orientation with leadership. Hiring the movers was the last day-to-day function I gave up, and it's so 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 critically important. And the branch managers, they're still doing it because really they are our product. Like, your movers are who your company is to the client's perspective. They don't really remember the salesperson too much, the guy on the community maybe a little bit if it's like a personal relationship you have, but at the end of the day, your business will live or die based upon the perspective of the clients of the movers in their home that they're spending all day with. So you better get that shit right.
Yeah, yeah. And if you read the book, you probably saw the best way I believe to grow a business is to provide that consistent 5-star raving fan experience so that people go tell their friends, family, coworkers, colleagues, and neighbors about you. And I still think any business, I think that word of mouth, that repeat lifelong client is the best way to do it. And what's great about moving is people, if you're opening more locations, you probably move people to or from that location, and it kind of helps to get that started. And it all starts with hiring. It all starts with training. That's why I actually, on the sign that we're putting in front of our building, it's got two college brothers moving in storage, and instead of like world headquarters or corporate headquarters, we put training center or training
That's awesome.
headquarters. It's because we
Love
just
that.
want it to be, even though this
Yes.
is our headquarters, it like the training needed to be worked into the
Yes.
brand as like this is for training, and I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in that, and it's one of our core values to hone it, as
Yes.
you mentioned earlier. So,
And I love that you have sorry,
okay.
sorry. I love that you have a position for those 5-star customer experiences, that you actually hired someone for that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
And
chief of
something
raving fans. Yeah.
so neat. Like, that's a differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
That's a differentiator.
Yep. We
Yeah.
called our raving fan mover money back guarantee, going back to the guarantee conversation. And we used to use a third party claim service,
Mhm.
was not getting the customer service
Totally.
results that I wanted out of that. And obviously, if you have your ops manager or the owner dealing with claims, you're going to want to, jump off a bridge or something, because it could be very distracting. And that's also how claims slip through the cracks when you have like an ops manager or somebody dealing with that, because they've got 10,000 other things on their plate. And so I decided one day several years ago, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, to create that position. And I mean, you could call it customer service, you could call it whatever you want, but we wanted our mission to be to make the 5-star
Yeah.
raving fans on every move. So if we
Yeah.
really want to live that mission, we need a chief of raving fans, and it's kind
Yes.
of evolved into a raving fans department. And it's not just claims. Like, we do Raving Fan Friday every week, where we reward both a client, where we have a manager stop by and give them, a little care package, and make them our raving fan of the week. But we also do it internally with the team. Somebody who went above
Awesome.
and beyond that week, and they're our raving fan team member, because it all starts with the team. And in order to have happy clients, you have to have a happy team, and the team
Yes.
has to be, the net promoter score works with the clients, but it's something that you need to have internally to retain and recruit
Yes.
great people. You want people that are going to be
Yes. Yes.
in the door.
Yep. Yep. We call that the meathead moment. And our salespeople have a little budget every month to surprise and delight our clients and do things that our clients are not expecting. Give them little surprises and order them things that our crew delivers to them. And it is the story that is told about, our company, and then we track it and then recognize it monthly as well. Yeah, we're kindred spirit. We really like I love how you do things, and I'm not surprised at all that you're growing and expanding and building out a bigger office, and it's just so cool. You guys are doing it right. There's no doubt.
Well, thank you, and I definitely need to come out there and see you. I'm definitely going to start planning that trip, because that
Good.
would be amazing to connect. Because we could talk for hours, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But I know we're both busy people, and I want to be respectful of your time.
Thank you.
So thank you, Aaron, for coming on to the Grow Your Moving
Thank
Company
you.
podcast. This has been an awesome episode. I'm sure, hopefully, we can have some more in the near future, because this deserves a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4.
Yeah, no, will do. And thanks for all that I've learned from you and all that you're doing for our industry. It's refreshing to have such good, positive content. And I love how open you are to sharing ideas for everyone.
You're a huge inspiration to not only myself, but the entire moving industry. And really grateful for you coming on here today.
Thank you, Wade.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. This has been an amazing episode with Aaron Steed, CEO of Meathead Movers, the largest independent moving company in California. And before we jump off, just want to remind everybody that our Moving Tight retreat is going to be September 2nd to the 4th here in Clearwater Beach. You can come tour our new shop. Let us know if you want to get in on the action with that. I hope to see you guys all there. And one of these days, we'll get you out here, Aaron, and it'll be an awesome time. But until next time, thanks for tuning in and tighten up.
Cool.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you would like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.